You want to clear the room? Yeah, wake people up after. Yeah, right. Exactly.
That's a long resolution. Yeah, I'll be napping. The organizational resolution. Aye. All right, thank you. 10 seconds.
10 seconds. 10 seconds, he said.
I usually give a little extra. Can you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all and good evening. Tonight is Tuesday, April 11th. It is a little before 7:35. We just came from executive session where we were talking about board, commission, and committee appointments. Before we get the meeting, the rest of the meeting started, we do have a bit of a special ceremony tonight where we are swearing in two of our sergeants. So, all right, so even though we've already done.
Yeah, that's all good.
You raise your right hand and I state your name.
I, Eric Dangler,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Police Sergeant.
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Police Sergeant.
Congratulations. Thank you. Come on. Right hand. I state your name.
I, Aaron Weiss,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of Police Sergeant.
of the office of Police Sergeant.
Wow.
So cute.
And that's so cute, huh?
So cute. They're so cute.
Well, I definitely want to say a big congratulations to Sergeant Dangler and Sergeant Weiss. Certainly deserved, and thank you for your service to the force and to the village of Rybrook. It's greatly appreciated. We have, I say it all the time, we have a great police force in Rybrook with a great leader in Chief Austin, and just keep up the good work. Thank you so much. And you're welcome to stay for the public hearings, or if you want to go enjoy your cookies and coffee, and I don't know if there's homework or.
Good night, everybody.
Take care.
Good night.
Bye. Congratulations.
Boy,
Oh, we lost something.
yeah, don't lose that. Boy, I really know how to clear out a room. All right, so we are moving into our public hearings. I don't think it's still open, right?
It's a
We have
continuing of a public hearing.
continuation.
Yep.
So we don't need to open. So a continuation of a public hearing on local law creating Chapter 158, Section 2.1 of the Village Code concerning seasonal leaf blower restrictions. And I would say that since the last meeting we had 2 months ago, there have been some significant changes to the local law based on comment from both our Sustainability Committee as well as from the public. Where I guess, Chris, do you want to
Sure.
overview the changes? And then we have one other slight change also in wording tonight that will that's really seeking to just clarify wording to get the true intent of what we were looking for in the local law.
Okay, so this just a reminder, this is a local law that's proposed based on originally recommendations of the Sustainability Committee and also went through with a lot of discussion for many years on the subject, as well discussion with the village board. And as the mayor said, we held a public hearing in which there was, and also received a lot of comments, written comments that were submitted. And, you know, we're very transparent here. We like to put all the comments we received, we put on our website so everyone can see, you know, all the comments from the public, as well as watch any of the meetings where the comments were made. So just a reminder about this local law. The local law that's presented is, I guess, an off-season ban on gas-powered leaf blowers. The ban would be in effect from May 1st till September 30th every year. And based on comments that were made at the next meeting, the ban would be for gas blowers only. You still could use electric blowers. One of the modifications is electric blowers, meaning either battery or plug-in could be used under the revised local law. Electric could be used year-round. So during that banned period, when you can't use a gas-powered leaf blower, you would be able to use electric. The other change that was made was this would not take effect until May 1st of next year, so May 1st, 2024. And what that does, give people time to go out, purchase electric leaf blowers, to buy the equipment that's out there. Some places it may be harder to find right now, so, you know, giving it a full year will give people an opportunity to find the right blowers, to be able to use the right, you know, make the right decisions and provide adequate time for that, for both the landscapers as well as individual homeowners. And during that time, the village is intending to do educational promotions as well, you know, kind of show the different products, how they work, you know, the good and the bad of them, and do some education on the subject. And the last subject is basically all the exemptions, all the groups that were exempted were removed, except for utility companies and like when you're doing paving or resurfacing. Other than that, the exemptions were all removed, but now there is now a process for property owners with that maintain over 5 acres of property. They can come in and make a case to the village board, and the village board, by resolution, would be able to approve or deny or, with conditions, modify the request for exemptions. So those are the changes that were made in the proposed local law, and council just, I think, was going to make one clarification to the intent of the local law as well.
Yes. So with respect to paragraph E of the local law as revised, that refers to the owner of any real property in excess of 5 acres, we would add a comma after acres and insert the phrase including a homeowners association that maintains individual properties along with its common areas, comma, and then pick back up with the language that's in the proposed revisions, may be exempted or exempted in part from the restrictions imposed by this section by resolution of the Board of Trustees.
So what that means in short is, if there's an HOA that maintains the individual owned lots within an HOA, if they maintain the common properties and the individual lots, they would be able to apply for an exemption for anything that they maintain. So that's the clarification in this proposed local law.
Okay, great, thank you. So that's an overview of the changes that were made since the last time. And as this is a public hearing, the public hearing is still open. So I think we had a list. Okay, thank you. There was only one person who had signed up, Barry Albala. So if you would like to speak, and then if other people would like to speak after, just raise your hand, or we could pass it around if people would prefer.
Yes,
But-
why don't you do that?
Okay. Thank you, Greg.
Okay, Barry Albala, 25 Talcott Road. It seems to me from discussion with the community and just keeping my eyes and ears open that this board in front of me has made up your minds. I hope it's not the case. I kind of got the chills when the police officers were sworn in and you talked about the Constitution. What we have in front of us is a classic example of an overreach from a local government in direct. What I see in front of me here is what our country is going through. A large government or a small government. I think the founders wanted a small one. I feel we're going in the wrong direction. I feel this is an overreach. I feel that the amount of time that we're taking with the banning of a leaf blower is obscene. The way I see it is that we're taking away an effective, efficient, valuable tool for all of our residents and homeowners and suggesting an inferior replacement based on a weak hypothesis. We have no real risk-reward analysis here. And in my opinion, it's just a reaction by bureaucratic minds that think that they're the smartest and most concerned people in the room. This is a feel-good move that actually takes advantages away. We are going backwards and causes unrealized bad consequences for the environment and the job at hand. If all gas-powered leaf blowers across the nation were tossed in the garbage tomorrow, we, the local residents, would suffer. Our sensitive ears will remain overly sensitive, and our precious environment will be no cleaner and no more beautiful. Please, elected board people, shake yourselves out of this take stuff away mentality. This should be tabled immediately. We have no problem here. We should let ourselves live, let ourselves leave well enough alone, and don't always think that change is necessarily good. Some people say the power to legislate is the power to destroy. Because others have moved ahead to ban leaf blowers, gas-powered leaf blowers, does not prove its merit. My feeling is to make change only when necessary, and not if the issue is the flavor of the month. Our society is in a panic mode, and clearly a knee-jerk reaction is not a good choice. I'm reminded some 50 years ago, when scientific studies illustrated the disastrous position we all would run into, we would have no more land to inhabit. When professionals thought that secondhand smoke would kill us in significant numbers. Just last Thursday night, the New York Mets had their baseball home opener at Citi Field. Earlier today, forecasters using the latest high technology equipment predicted rain. The game was canceled. It didn't rain, and it turned out to be a beautiful night. Crazy as it seems, a growing faction of I pronounce this wrong, but Parisians in Paris are making the head-scratching claim that disease, this is true, I'm not making this up, disease-carrying rats are good for their city and should be able to coexist alongside humans. At the exact same time, New York City Mayor hired a six-figure administrator to get rid of these rats at the same time. Paris, New York. In Europe, lawmakers are going to the mat for rats, with Paris Council member Dusher Makovo arguing that the pests are actually vital in addressing the big city's waste issue. They are assets rather than problems for effectively maintaining the hygiene, quote, of our city, Marvac said in a September meeting. Crazy. Crazy. All the efforts going into chasing 9 net zero policies across the West are wasted in more than one. The obvious is lots of pain for very little gain, since China, India, and developing world are not on board. Green proponents are actually causing terrible problems, as in solar, a chief renewable generates waste 300 times as toxic as alternative energy sources, and do nothing to combat emissions. We are complicating things unnecessarily. Valuable minds in this room need to focus on other things. I understand we all want to be a positive influence in our community, but this is nonsensical. By the way, are not gas-powered leaf blowers manufactured under our strict safety guidelines, including noise and pollution? That was a question. Anybody?
Yeah, they are.
They are. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought so.
Yeah.
The next chapter, take away our gas stoves.
They are.
Unfortunately, they are.
Rosemary Schlank?
Shorter. Okay, Rosemary Schlank. I'm from 9 Bayberry Lane.
I think we need the microphone.
And I would like to answer the question that was just posed for starters. And yes, gas-powered leaf blowers are made according to manufacturer specifications, and manufacturers give out written instructions to go with those machines, but they are not always operated according to those instructions. And
I think,
Rosemary, you can continue, please.
Okay.
Talk to the
I
board.
want to make sure that those at home that are watching
Can
can
hear.
hear her, because I don't think
Yeah,
that the
maybe speak a little more
microphone.
into the microphone.
Sure, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have a written statement tonight. It's a little awkward, but I was kind of pressed for time, and I didn't want to ramble on. I fully support a seasonal leaf blower ban. My main concerns are with 1, the 5-acre exception in the revised law, and 2, the safety and quality of life issues that are raised by the simultaneous use of blowers in roadways to move large piles of leaves over long distances to a dumpster or a dumping ground. Now, granted, this type of activity probably does not happen as much in other parts of Rybrook, but it happens frequently where I live, and I feel it may be due in part to services that are provided to residents in other parts of Rybrook, but not to my community. So tonight, I really just have 3 requests. First, I ask that you include in the local leaf blower law a prohibition against the simultaneous use of multiple gas-powered equipment. In my community, the workers are often in the roadways using multiple blowers, at least 4 at a time. And this is precisely the kind of usage that triggers the most significant safety risks. And by the way, I did my research on that in the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission's database. The risks of activities like that include getting hit by an automobile, getting hit by a piece of mulch or metal that flies into your eye, getting your hearing damaged by the noise of multiple pieces of gas-powered equipment operating at the same time. Now, the automobile injuries affect the operators. The risks of ending up deaf or blind affect the passers-by as well. And for these reasons, Other communities have enacted laws to prohibit the simultaneous use of multiple pieces of gas-powered equipment. And I am asking that Rybrook do the same from October 1st through April 30th of each year. The comment letter that I sent to Greg has the words from the City of Rye's resolution. I suggest these same words would provide consistency for the landscapers and would work well for us too. Second, my community is a PUD. I'm not sure anymore if that still stands for Planned Urban Development or Planned Unit Development.
Planned unit development. Planned unit development.
Planned Unit Development, okay. No individual homeowner has land in excess of 5 acres. But the roadways and other portions that are open to everyone add up to more than 5 acres. These areas are known as common interest realty. For expediency, the HOA holds the title to these areas rather than all the homeowners. I am concerned, and tonight it was confirmed, that the village might make an exception to the leaf blower laws for the common interest portion of the PUD or the entire PUD. I feel that this would be unworkable and difficult to enforce because, after all, the main concern with leaf blowers is that the noise and pollution can cross over the property lines. They don't stay on the land where the blowers are operated. And this is especially problematic in a PUD like mine that has very small lot sizes and short setbacks. The common interest realty runs right through the property. It can be 5 feet from your door. So I would ask that you revise what was said tonight to say that the exception does not apply to PUDs like mine. And third, and lastly, I see that the budget is on the agenda for later tonight. And I am asking that you please set aside some funds to provide for pickups of leaves in PUDs like mine. Homeowners in other sections of Rybrook can put their leaves out by the curb, and the village will pick up the leaves with a vacuum truck. At least that's my understanding. The village does not provide that service to my development. And to some extent, I can understand that. I mean, even though it leaves taxpayers in my development paying taxes for services that we do not receive. You know, we have been able to cope with this in the past, but now we have a new landscape crew. They blow all the leaves from the lawns into the roadways. Then they blow or plow, sometimes they use snow plows, to plow the leaves from every corner of the 38-acre development to a dumpster or dumping ground on the perimeter of the development. I mean, all the way across 38 acres. And this is why we have so many pieces of equipment operating simultaneously. This is why we have so many safety risks. So I am asking if the village could just set aside a little money in the budget to help us with this. I think there are a few options, and one option is to invest in smaller equipment to do the pickups from each house in developments like mine. I don't think it's all that expensive, but I could get the cost estimates. Another option is to negotiate a contract for more frequent pickups of bagged leaves. Each option would lessen the need to blow large piles of leaves through the roadways to dumpsters and dumping grounds, and it would provide equal rights, services, and protections, which is very important under the Constitution. Either option would be fine. I think the second one would be a little bit better because it would encourage people to mow and mulch. I mean, after all, it's a little bit of a hassle to put the leaves in a bag every couple of weeks, and so maybe you'd rather just mulch them into the ground. I understand that White Plains did an experiment like that, and they were able to cut their vacuuming costs by like 50%. I've not confirmed it with them, but it just, you know, conceptually it seems like a good idea. So those are my 3 requests. No simultaneous use of multiple blowers, no exemptions for PUDs like mine, and no more need to do without the services that are provided to other taxpayers in Rybrook. So thank you for hearing me out. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, and I would, and to Trustee Hodges' point, I would point out that what this does is it allows the PUD to, or the HOA, to apply for an exemption, but it's not automatically given. So just as a clarification. Kate Briggs?
and City Council. I appreciate you listening to us from last time and adjusting this proposed law. To address some of Rosemary and the other persons right off the bat real quick is, in Rye, that you can call up the police chief over there and talk to him. There are a dozen or so residents that are driving around and driving every landscaper crazy because they were trying to take pictures and submit it, and they're trying to call the cops, and it's just a runaround game, and that's just not cool. And like, one guy got a ticket last year because literally they were putting the lawnmower, not cutting, up into the truck while a blower was operating. It's just a nightmare. And it's really we're chasing our tails, just trying to accommodate within the frame. It's a little too tight over there for that aspect. And the amount of phone calls that the police are receiving is voluminous, and it's interfering with just like health and heart attack and car accidents and everything else that they do. As far as a large plan unit development, maybe the affording a more expensive landscaper who can be more delicate and take care of this in a better way would be one option. Next subject is I had the fortunate ability to use electric material for a couple days, and I appreciate the direction of this law because I found it to be cumbersome, time consuming. I was a dog chasing my tail, and my guys were actually just working in the garden beds using non-tools, and I was flustered and running for batteries. It was also not as ergonomic, the equipment. It's not as ergonomic as our current equipment, and it was very evident just in the very little time I was using it. So being able to use this electric blower during the summertime for the small jobs and to clean up is very beneficial to keep our jobs and our job sites healthy and clean, to keep the DOT happy. I just wanted to inform you of this finding of myself. And lastly, I had one landscaper, two landscaper out of the hundreds I know don't have the same company equipment from head to toe. These batteries are, yes, usable within different machines, but it's only in the same line. All of our companies have multiple lines of equipment. We have like this type of weed whacker because it's really great. We have this type of lawnmower because this one's better in our certain situations. So all that battery would be extremely cumbersome, and we would be forced to use one equipment, one brand. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate this going in. Chris, I just have one question. The time on this law of operation, what is the timing of this, like 8 in the morning to?
Just have to double check on the law.
So
158,
it's out in the public.
158-2-2D.
I'll look it up while you're doing it, and I can
Okay.
answer it.
Thank you for your time. And I appreciate your energy for all this.
Thank you.
You see the time?
I'll look it up.
Next we have
No, it
Richard
says
Mast.
Hours set forth in
158.
Good evening. My name is Richard Mast. I live at 6 Talcott Road, and I'm here speaking on behalf of the board of the Talcott Woods Homeowners Association. We have a letter that we presented last meeting, and we still stand by that position. However, I'd like to take a moment just to say thank you for your consideration on the exemption opportunity, and I just have a couple of quick questions on that. And you may not have the answers just yet, but the obvious question is, when can we apply? We are a homeowners association that is responsible for all 68 homeowner lots as well as the common property. So when can we apply? Will there be very specific detail indicating what's allowed for an exemption, or is it just we apply because we are over 5 acres and we handle the entire property? And will this application have to be a recurring event, or once the exemption is given, we have it? It doesn't become an annual thing. And that's it.
So, I mean, I'll leave most. I think I can partially answer that, and correct me if I'm wrong. But there's nothing in the local law that says when the application would occur. So it would just be after the local law takes effect if it's voted into law. And I think you hit on the specifics of owning over 5 acres and being responsible for the for the area within that.
I mean, if I can comment,
Yeah, please.
I mean, the idea I think is to have some flexibility because different situations could lead to different considerations for the board. You know, we've heard at the public hearing, for instance, that some locations may have a multi-year contract that may not expire on May the 1st of next year. So that might be something a group may bring to the board saying, we have a fixed contract that goes to this period of time that says they can use gas-powered equipment. I'm making it up. So the board may say, okay, you have additional time to get to that if they granted that type of if they granted that type of an extension. Another one may be a group may say, or a commercial property may say, there's no electric equivalent for this type of use that we need, so the board may consider, all right, maybe it's intentionally meant to be flexible, so the board could say, well, you know, for instance, this portion of your property, you can use something else, or use the gas powered, as an example, if there's no electric equivalent. But it gives the opportunity to kind of look at the situation, for the board to look at their situations and consider whether or not there should be either an exemption or an extension, depending on their situations.
Okay, so when the law becomes a reality, you'll issue specific verbiage relative to what
Guidelines,
constitutes.
but it's intended to be flexible.
Okay,
Yeah, depending on the situation.
thank you.
And if I could address the time frame. So during the weekdays, this is under our code. Weekdays it's 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. and weekends it's 9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Generous, thank you.
Okay.
All right, Jerry D. Pietro.
Good evening, Jerry DiPietro. I'm Vice President from New York Turf and Landscape Association. The only thing is, you gotta take in consideration battery is not there yet. It's a little bit expensive. They don't last as long. The one blower, you need 8 batteries. It's gonna cost you like $8,000 just for batteries alone. So I would say, at least give it another 5 years to anticipate, the battery could develop better, and probably after we could go with it to all batteries. That's my thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie Friedman.
Can you hear me with the mask on? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm Debbie Friedman, 2 Greenhouse Circle. I am here on behalf of myself and also on behalf of the Rybrook Sustainability Committee. I'm just going to start, well, this is probably from the committee as well, but I want to thank the mayor and the board for tackling this issue. And clearly there's a lot of interest in the community, so thank you for listening. One of the things I love about Rybrook is that people really care about the community. And so there has been a tremendous outpouring of people coming to the public hearings to speak and written comments coming in. And I think that's really a testament to the community that we live in. And I think that that's positive because ultimately that's how democracy is supposed to work. We bring all of this input together, we listen, and hopefully then draft legislation that is better suited to the community and that is better legislation because it has input from all the various stakeholders, both the residents and the landscapers and everybody. So thank you for listening. I very much appreciate it. One of the things that I heard at the last public hearing, and I'm going to speak more to the residents versus the landscapers, although I think many of them agreed too, is that we all recognize that we need to change what we're doing today. And I think, I hope the board recognizes that change isn't easy for anybody. But the status quo isn't going to hold. So we do need to make changes, and I think we all need to adapt. Myself, likewise, I drove here in 2014 SUV. It is not hybrid. It is not electric. It eats gas. It's a horrible car for the environment. I still own it, and I still drive it, and I was not the only one with the exact same car in the parking lot today. So we're going to need to make changes, and I applaud you for tackling this and helping us to move forward. I think that's it. Then I've listened to everything tonight as well, and again, I think that a lot of the issues have already been addressed in the various things. I'm not going to read everything that the Sustainability Committee wrote in their most recent letter, but it is on the website. I saw that there. But I do want to point out that at this point in time, what we've gotten to is gas blowers are banned for 5 months of the year. Electric can be used all year long. So from a change point of view, this doesn't seem like it's a dramatic change that our community can't handle. So I just kind of want to make that point. You know, we're not looking at doing something that is huge at this point in time for the community, although I know some people may not agree with that. So that's the first thing that I wanted to point out. And then I think the main concern that the Sustainability Committee has with the current draft of the legislation is the exemptions. Our previous mayors mentioned that the 5 acre plus properties could constitute as much as 25% or maybe more of Rybrook. So I think we need to keep in mind that if we are providing exemptions for these large properties, the impact of the legislation, the benefits of the legislation will be fewer and smaller. So just want to make sure that that gets taken. And this latest draft of the legislation also gives a full year from the time that it's enacted, pretty much assuming that it's voted on soon, because it won't go into effect until May 2024. And so we feel that that gives both residents and landscapers enough time to make those changes and to get ready and to prepare. So I'm going to actually just read then some of the other stuff that we talked about. Concern with the exemptions, it says it's very imprecise, and we would want to understand a little bit more what are the criteria that you're looking at to evaluate that, and you know, there's a little bit of concern that legislation is very specific and clear and enforceable, and that the exemption idea right now is very loose. So we'd like you to consider that. We talked about this. The other thing that we talked about as a committee is that large property owners are able to apply for exemptions, but smaller property owners are not. And we actually feel that that's a little bit inequitable. It almost feels that the larger property owners are being offered a privilege that's not, you know, offered to a smaller property owner. And an individual property owner may have budgetary issues where it's difficult for them also to afford, if they're doing their own lawn, the equipment. So it's just something to think about. Go through. I think that's pretty much it. It was really with the exemptions that we had concerns and how that's going to operate. And based on Chris's comment that he just made tonight, I would encourage you, if you are going to make exemptions, that those would be perhaps extensions to give people more time to comply with the new legislation, assuming that the legislation gets passed, as opposed to exemptions that last indefinitely. And I think that's it. Thank you very much for listening. We appreciate all the work that you're doing on this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
There's no one else on the list, but would anyone else like to talk? Please.
How you doing? Jason Tax here. I'm over on Country Ridge Drive. I'm still pretty young. My first home just bought a couple of years ago here, so I'm new to a lot of this. But in my years, I don't know, and maybe it has happened here, I don't know, a lot of people losing their hearing because of lawnmowers or getting hit by debris, getting hit by cars. I don't personally see that. I've never heard of that. Lived in a house on Long Island my whole life, so I don't really see that being a big issue. We talk about pollution. I feel like that's probably not a big issue coming from lawnmowers. We live in the path of the airport. You have airlines flying over our heads all day long with noise pollution, jet fuel. So again, I don't think a lawnmower is really something that is going to cause pollution or damage. And then most importantly to me, I feel that the cost is going to come down to the homeowner at the end of the day, right? You have landscapers that have to go out and buy all this new equipment. That cost is going to trickle down to me and everybody else. There's already, with all the inflation and increasing in pricing and everything, to now ask us to potentially pay more money for a service, I think is not necessarily fair. On top of that, you have the golf course, which seems to be exempt from this. I live right onto the golf course, and they are going to be blowing their leaves as they normally do onto my property, which is fine because I have a service that gets rid of them. But if I don't have that service anymore because they are too much money and I can't afford it, what's going to happen to those leaves on my property? Because at the end of the day, if this comes down to now being a cost issue, and maybe others are in the same boat, I'm not going to pay it. And then what ends up happening, you have the property going into, looking like it's in shambles. There's already a few houses on the neighborhood that don't really take care of their property. And I think at the end of the day, it's just going to, have an effect on the home prices and just the overall care of the property, and just, again, just financially speaking, I think it's going to add more hardship to young families and other people that can't necessarily afford an increase in pricing on their landscaping. So I think at the end of the day, the pricing is a big issue. We think it's not, moving forward with the times, and the landscapers are going out and having to buy new equipment. That probably is going to cost hundreds to replace all of their equipment and add it all into batteries and all electricity. And again, I don't think that's a fair thing that now everybody is potentially going to have to be paying more money for a service that we're getting now. So that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
I can start. You want me to start? So I just want to clarify a few items. So again, this is clarity. It's only about leaf blowers, so it's not about lawn mowers right now, and it's for the non-traditional leaf blowing season when leaves are typically falling. So we're talking about from May to September. So you'd still be able to use, under the current legislation, gas-powered leaf blowers in this earlier spring prior to May, as well as in the fall season. So they could still be used then as currently drafted in legislation. The other clarification is, it was just mentioned about the golf course. So the original legislation did exempt golf courses, but the revised legislation took that exemption out. So for the golf course, would have to request an exemption from the village board and explain, why they would be, they should be considered for such exemption. And then again, just because somebody is asking or has the ability to ask for an exemption, it's really going to be up to the village board to decide whether or not that exemption would be provided. So just to be clear, properties over 5 acres aren't exempted. What you're doing is you're just saying those properties have the ability to request an exemption from the village board, who may or may not grant it or grant it with conditions.
Did you want to?
No, that's basically what I want to say. You start off with the assumption that nobody is exempt from this legislation unless and until, by right, they apply for an exemption. And then it's up to this board to determine whether they have, met whatever criteria we determine to exist to deserve an exemption. But it's not automatic.
Rosemary, go ahead. Yes, please.
I just wanted to add that I understand that it's not automatic, but what I started to say is there's no hearing, there's no way for the people who are affected by this to provide input. And I think it really would be good if you could provide that. And also, on the hearing, where I live in my PUD, a lot of people were complaining about the airplanes. People thought the airplanes were too loud. And so what we did was we installed a portable noise monitor. The airport set it up for us. And we tracked all the loud noises to find out which airplanes were called. It uses radar, you can find out exactly which aircraft is doing it. And what we found out was that we really don't have much of a problem with aircraft noise. We have a problem with landscape noise. That's what it came out and said. We had noises. Some villages, some municipalities will try to limit noise to 55 or 65 decibels and say anything over that is loud. We had noises as loud as 124.8 decibels. That's loud enough to cause hearing damage instantaneously. So I think you need to have some of that information before, as a board, you make a decision. And if there just is a way that we could provide some input, that would be very helpful. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Yeah, they would be. Yeah, they would be. So, I just want to start off. I mean, now I'm going to open it up to board comment. Before I do, it's interesting sitting up here, and I think this is one of the first. I've been on the board for 10 years, and every once in a while something comes up that there truly is a difference of opinion on this board, and I think we're the better for it. I think that there has to be a level of compromise. Certainly we take in the consideration. This started as a recommendation from the Sustainability Committee, that this was a report and recommendation was asked for by the outgoing mayor a year ago, is when this was asked for. And the Sustainability Committee did their due diligence and came back with a proposal. And through public comment, through board comment, through thought process, this has been changed. And no law is going to be perfect. No law is going to satisfy everybody. But it's our responsibility to weigh all the information before us. As a former chair of the Sustainability Committee, I know this was something that I was looking at more than 10 years ago. So I would never call this reactionary. I think that this is something that we've spent a lot of time discussing and a lot of time reviewing. This is our second public hearing. We had to have the second public hearing because we were changing the law. We knew we were changing the law based on public comment and based on the thought process of the board in front of you. And the way that this is drafted right now, I'm comfortable with personally. Does it mean it's perfect? No. Does it mean it's going to satisfy everyone? No way. Does it mean that it's going to stay like this forever? Probably not. That a lot of what we have in our village code is fluid. That's why you have the village code. That's why we have public hearings, and that's why we take up things where we've taken steps to streamline certain areas of the code. Why we've taken steps to make it so that we could have deputy electrical inspectors as part of our code. But that's the idea of the village code. This village has been around since 1982. There's been a lot of change since then, and there will continue to be change. And so my personal feeling is that while I'm not necessarily, I think this law could be stricter. I think it could be better, but I'm comfortable where it stands right now. And that's my personal view, and I'll certainly open it up to any other board member who would like to speak.
Would you like to go first?
No, go ahead, you go. Because you may ditto you. Go ahead. Or I may not.
Excuse me.
Go ahead, you go first.
No, please.
Trustee Morlino.
Well,
I'll make this
it's
easy.
it's been a tiring discussion about leaf blowers, and I initially wasn't in favor of it. I felt that it was really strict, and I pushed to have, for sure, to make sure at least have electric blowers. I also was concerned about pushing it this year, and we were able to agree on next year to enforce it, to give everybody time to purchase electric leaf blowers. I do agree with the gentleman that mentioned something about electric products and how well they operate. You're right, we're not there yet, for sure. We're getting close, but just like cars, we're getting better with cars and batteries. I hear these comments. Every time I hear these comments, I have to rethink it again. Comments keep coming. Then you rethink it, you make a decision, and then the next meeting, another comment comes up. It's hard. It's very hard to make these decisions when you have the public at you, and they come up with these different suggestions or different reasons why we should or shouldn't do it. I don't know. I'm still on the fence about the whole thing, really. I mean, I feel good that we have time to vote on something like this. We still have time to enact it. It's not going to happen until next year. And if we do it, I don't know, I'm just still a little confused, you know. I mean, we keep changing it. It's being changed quite a bit. Every time something comes up, we change it, and it's, you know, so I don't know. I'm still not sure. That's all I have to say.
Ready?
Yeah.
So I didn't prepare anything that was written. I missed the first discussion, but I assure you all that I watched all 3 hours of the first discussion, and I read all 95 letters, and I have personally fielded 50+ calls from friends and angry neighbors. So what I'd like to say is that change is always uncomfortable for everybody. I think that this is something that we've had to think about for a while. I think that each of us follows any kind of sustainability issue on our own time frame, whether it be embracing using plastic bottles or using ones that you can just wash and reuse, straws, etc. So this is really a fluid one for me because I see everybody's point. I see the point when we saw the Sustainability Committee showed us a movie where in California they said that the particulates are very dangerous and can cause cancer, et cetera. And I saw that and I'm like, oh my God, we have to stop these particulates. The truth is, it is not only leaf blowers blowing particulates around. It is also your airplanes. It is also your cars that have huge emissions. So if you can't legislate all of that, this is just a small little piece of it. And if we're only doing it for the 4 months out of the year, it's a tiny step. So if people are comfortable doing it on their own, that is what I would advocate. Personally, I don't believe that we should be legislating it at this time because I don't really see how much it's going to contribute going forward. I think that everybody has to take it on their own. That's my personal view. I see the point of it, but I also don't think the equipment is there. We pressed Mr. Nowak, he's our tester and he's our expert on whether or not the machinery really can do the job. And the truth is it will take a much longer time for people to do these things with this type of machinery. That being said, I think that if you want to take it on and just use an electric blower, you should do that, and that is where we are all headed. That's why cars are going to EV. So everybody has to make their own step, or his or her own step. Is that correct? His or her own
I'm
step.
not going to bail you out at this time.
Okay. Grammatically speaking, his or her own choice on this one. I just think that one size does not fit all, and I'm not ready to enact something like this personally. I think that prohibiting it is really a dangerous step at this time when the technology is not there. A law can't satisfy everybody. I understand why people want sustainability, and I make my own steps. I drive a hybrid car. You drive a 2014 car. That is not always a choice. It's an economic one. So is this leaf blower issue. It's an economic one because it's a very big buy-in for all of the landscapers. So I appreciate that everybody has let me know how they feel. We're in a no-win situation here. We're going to annoy half of the constituents in our village. So I think that everybody should take on what they think they are comfortable with, and we cannot legislate it. That's my point of view on this one. So I think that we should wait. That's my point of view.
Oh, you want me to go?
Yeah.
You want to go in order?
Yes.
Okay. No?
Go ahead.
All right.
Oldest last.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Great job.
So I started out volunteering for the village on the Sustainability Committee, and I was the chair. And this brings back a memory when we wanted to ban plastic bags, and people were all in an uproar. And they're like, no, you can't take away my plastic bags. I need them. And here we are a couple of years later, and do people even remember their plastic bags? Obviously, it's a different price point we're talking about, but what I'm saying is change is happening, and it's going to happen whether we are all fully on board or just half of us are on board. And this is the way the world is heading. And we are not doing, I don't believe we're doing anything so drastic. We're not asking people to give up their leaf blowers in the fall, their gas leaf blowers in the fall, which is when, October, November, into December is when all those leaves will be falling. You can use your gas leaf blowers then. It's really just during the summer months and warmer months when people are outside, we're asking people to not use gas leaf blowers. And I don't think that that's so much to ask. I understand the technology's not there. That's why we're giving everybody a year. Maybe it still won't be there in a year, but at least we're heading in the right direction. And as far as the exemptions go, I personally want the exemptions because I don't think it's fair to exempt the golf course, exempt the village, exempt certain people without giving everyone a chance to present their case for an exemption. So I feel like it has to be fair. So I do support this, but I do believe that we do have to have these exemptions to be fair to everyone.
I'm the oldest, so I get.
He gets to go.
I'd like to address a couple of things. To the person on Country Ridge who defined himself as a young man.
Yeah, you may need to.
Oh, okay. For the person on Country Ridge who defined himself as a young man, you probably don't remember, but in the 1970s,
May not have been born.
the government, in an effort to reduce pollution, mandated that automobiles had to have catalytic converters. It raised the price of automobiles. But the reason was because it's for the good of everyone if pollution is reduced. My car went up in price. I didn't have a choice. I couldn't have an automobile without a catalytic converter. Was it a perfect solution? No. Automobiles still pollute mightily, but it made things a little bit better. In my opinion, this legislation is, as the mayor pointed out, imperfect. There probably is no perfect legislation. All we can try to do as a board is try to make things a little bit better. I can't guarantee you're going to notice an improvement. I can't guarantee that suddenly everybody's health is going to be wonderful. But we can try. And I understand that it's burdensome to have costs go up. But I feel that in the nature of public safety, we all have to think about the fact that it is worth it. You have to buy a helmet now if you ride a bicycle. That's an added cost. Why can't I just ride my bicycle without a helmet? Whose business is it? But bottom line is you have to buy a helmet. You don't have a choice. And so we don't live in a country where we can do whatever we want whenever we want it. We have a society of laws. We are attempting here to enact a law. We hope that it will have positive benefits. That's all we're trying to do. We're not trying to punish anybody. Thank you.
Thank you. So, I think we've been around this quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I think the next step is to close the public hearing. So can I have a motion and second, please, to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
And again, this is just to close the public hearing.
Yeah.
I know.
I don't want to close it.
I don't want to close that.
Trustee Epstein?
No.
Okay. Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino?
No.
Mayor Klein?
Yes. So, Chris, can we move into resolution, please?
Sure. Okay, considering adopting a local law to amend Chapter 158, Section 2.1 of the Village Code of the Village of Rybrook concerning seasonal leaf blower restrictions. Whereas the Village of Rybrook Board of Trustees desires to establish seasonal limitations on the use of leaf blowers in the Village of Rybrook to prohibit the use of leaf blowers in the village from May 1st through and including September 30th of each year. And whereas the proposed local law was introduced at the January 24th, 2023 meeting of the board to create this chapter of the code concerning leaf blower restrictions. And whereas the main purpose of the proposed legislation is to control dust pollution, eliminate health hazards, minimize noise pollution, and reduce the negative impacts on soil nutrient retention and wildlife habits, which results in the use of leaf blowers. And whereas the Board of Trustees held a duly noticed public hearing on the proposed local law on February 28th, at which time, kept the public hearing until April 11th, 2023, at which time all those interested had an opportunity to be heard. And whereas certain revisions have been made to the proposed local law, and whereas the Board of Trustees held the public hearing on the proposed local law, closed the public hearing on April 11th, at which time everyone had an opportunity to be heard. And whereas the proposed action is an unlisted action pursuant to seeker, and whereas the Board of Trustees is fully familiar with the proposed local law, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Rybrook, in accordance with seeker and upon review of the short environmental assessment form and all of the materials prepared, hereby adopts the attached negative declaration for the proposed local law, finding that the adoption of the local law will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts. And be it further resolved, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Rybrook hereby adopts the proposed local law to create Chapter 158, Section 2.1 of the Code of the Village of Rybrook concerning seasonal leaf blower restrictions.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second, please?
So moved.
Second.
I think we've had enough conversation on this. I would just say that, and I would reiterate that this is I still think of this as a compromise local law that we took into consideration comments from both the public and from the board.
Okay. Trustee Epstein.
No.
Trustee Fisher.
Yes.
Trustee Heiser.
Yes.
Trustee Morlino.
No.
And Mayor Klein.
Yes. Thank you. All right, so moving into public hearing number 2, public hearing on the fiscal year 23-24 tentative budget.
Yeah.
I think we have a presentation here.
You thought you could clear
Yeah.
the room.
Good night. Okay, that's that.
Man, that's sore.
I don't remember.
I don't remember that.
Need a moment to
I was born in
Like 75 or
75.
so.
That's when I was
I was
born.
born in 70.
Yeah, they didn't have catalytic converters cars,
I
so
don't-
they really polluted a lot.
Yeah.
Make things a little bit better.
They also didn't have seatbelts.
Well, that's something else. There was no pollution involved, except when you went through the windshield, and you
See how it
polluted.
goes.
We definitely cleared the room. Maybe we should have done the budget first.
I definitely think we should have done the budget first. They would have learned something.
We did 2 weeks ago.
Even Michael left.
Michael left too.
Even Michael left, I'll tell you.
Even Michael, not Mikey.
What's that? FBI for slashing his budget.
That will be reflected in Michael's salary review.
That's right.
I think he's going to clean up outside.
Okay, I'm very pleased tonight to present and provide an overview of our tentative budget for fiscal year 2023-24. Our fiscal year starts on June 1st and continues until May 31st. We've been working on this budget for, normally you always say we work on it since December, but this year it actually backs up a few more months as we went to a digital budget book this year, which we think is a lot more interactive. It's easier, better than a flat PDF for residents to review on our website. It's much more interactive. There's a lot more information that people can look at or download. So there's a lot more information is presented. This is a lot of work that goes into this, starting with direction from the village board in terms of parameters. And my office working very closely with the treasurer's office led by Trish Lepre, who's here tonight. And I just want to say right up front, thank you so much. She's an amazing treasurer. She does just a great job and goes over and above in every way. And behind her is Lauren Simmons, our deputy treasurer.
Clap for you too now.
Who also does
You're
a
wearing
great
blue,
job.
I'm not wearing
And Greg Rivera is also part of our budget team. So.
Yay!
And when
Long
we say it's a
week.
team, it's something that really goes through. Our department heads do a great job
I didn't.
providing, my office and Trish's office and the village board with a lot of information so that we can all make informed decisions. The budget was filed on March 20th, which is the state requirement. Since then, we've held 2 budget work sessions with the village board where they've met and gone through with all the departments to ask questions, get more information, talk about modifications. And the budget has to be adopted by May 1st or the tentative budget becomes the budget. Okay, so first we mentioned that there's a new format for the budget. And we use the ClearGov product to create a new digital budget book. So we think we're more, and especially for a community our size, this is something that we're very excited about. We think, there's nothing more frustrating, I think, for people to read, a PDF of spreadsheets, for a budget. So this provides residents with an opportunity to get to know our budget a little bit more, to be able to look up information, look at the history. There's a lot more data. It's very transparent. And if you go to our website, that's what it looks like. There's a link right on top. And on the main section, you can go to any of the tabs and pull down menus, and you can look at any section of the budget and the attachments, and it drives down to great detail. Okay, the goals we have for this coming year. We have we always try to set our budgetary goals, and they don't change too much year to year because we really believe this is the way we try to live our lives as part of our day-to-day administration and carrying out the policies of the board. So keeping property taxes as low as possible, that's always a goal of the village. We try to balance that out with the needs and the maintaining high quality services. We think we provide very high quality service for the size of our community. We think that's what's expected, but there's certain things that are required and there's certain areas that are desired. And trying to find that Rybrook difference, what makes Rybrook special and providing the services that the residents want, is that delicate balance we try to do while we maintain, tax increases that are hopefully very reasonable and looked at a good value for living in the community. We always try to make sure we reinvest in the infrastructure. This becomes very hard in an area of tax cap. But Rybrook should take a lot of pride in continuing to reinvest in its capital, continuing to invest in its infrastructure, its road system, making sure that our systems are maintained. We have, I think, about 1.5 million in capital this year, and that's pretty typical. We're doing a great job making sure that we keep up with our infrastructure and our buildings and our equipment. And continuing to maintain a strong fiscal condition. I think we've done that. You look at it, we stay within the cap whenever possible. We've our stress scores, everything else, which we'll go over later. We're a very solid position. Our debt is low. We think we're in very solid ground. So those are our 4 main goals as we go through and we review the budget. That's what we try to do. Again, we are under the tax cap again for the 11th out of 12 years. We think we have a lean but mighty staff. I'll say that. We have 75 full-time positions. We have some part-time and some seasonals, but those 75 full-time position is a reduction of 1 position and a vacant position in public works. Again, the planned debt load is low, and the budget is consistent with our financial policies, which are also linked in the online budget. So this is really your general overview. If you're assessed value in Rybrook is that $3.2 billion, and that's actually a good sign. All the values are all going up in Rybrook. So whether it be residential, which went up about $195 million on all the residential properties, which is about a 7.5% increase, or the commercial side of it, which went up, a more modest, more flat, 2.6 million. The good news is properties in Rybrook are increasing in value. That's a good thing. That doesn't mean your taxes will automatically go up. What it means is the pie is just expanding. How it gets distributed is how the tax rate and the levy balances out. So if you look here, that's our total levy, which is the amount to be raised by taxation, is $18.7 million, and our total expenditures this year is $25.7 million. The levy goes up 2.77%, which again is below the tax cap. We are about $22,358 underneath the tax cap with the tentative budget. But a few modifications with the work sessions, which we'll talk about later. Okay? So we try to show this as an example of how this looks. So you can see the residential or the homestead, which is your single and 1 and 2 family homes. That portion of the levy is $14 million, $14.5 million. So out of that $18 million levy, 14 million of it is paid on the homestead side of it, and 4 million is paid on the non-homestead or the commercial. So in order to see an example, that's the residential tax rate in the tentative budget. You'd basically take your tax rate, which is $5.22 per thousand, times 931.501 if you want to do 507 if you want to do the math, and the average village tax for that would be, for that homeowner, for the average home would be $4,867, which is about a $146 increase over the prior year, $12 a month. On the non-homestead side, what you have to do, it's a little bit different because you can't take the average home price. We just pick a price of a commercial property. So a sample commercial property at $10 million would be paying $86,000 in property taxes, which you can see the non-homestead rate dropped, so they'd be paying a little bit less actually on the homestead side. So the total levy increase, again, is within the tax cap. Homestead increases 5.58, non-homestead actually decreases, and we are 22,000 below the cap. Okay, so this slide is very simply just trying to show you how shows how homestead still helps the residential properties. So actual distribution with homestead is 77%. If you think about it, almost 78% of the levy goes to the base proportions are paid by the commercial properties. And the non-homestead.
Sorry.
Huh?
The opposite.
Sorry, reversed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The homestead properties.
Pays 77.9% of the pie. Okay, for every dollar they spend, the homestead properties pay $78, 78% of it. The non-homestead pay about 22%, but the actual would be 85. If you were not to have homestead, the residential properties would be paying 85 cents on the dollar, and the non-homestead would be paying 15 cents on the dollar. So you can see how homestead still does protect the residential properties, enacting that every year. Okay, these are shows you the tax rates in the past decade. Perfect world, you'd want to see the green line and the blue line merging to the red, because that's the blended tax rate, and that's what you hope for. You hope that those kind of get closer together. So right now you can see the non-homestead tax rate is still much higher than the than the homestead rate. So you can see the commercial values are still, the tax rate for the commercial values are still much higher. So for every dollar spent, the commercial properties are basically paying about 2 times as much than the homestead than the homestead properties. The blended rate would be, if there was no homestead, non-homestead, that's where it would be. Okay, bottom line for people, how do I know how much my taxes are changing? I do this slide every year because it's the simplest way. You have to at least pull out your tax bills from last year and look at your assessed values, because everything is fluid. Your tax rates will just because your tax rate goes up or down doesn't mean you're going to be paying more or less taxes. What it means is, your question is, are you going up or down compared to how everybody else in the village is doing? That'll be a better indicator. So the only way to really know how much your taxes will change is very straightforward. You have to take your assessed value last year, and the average assessed value in Rybrook was $887,200. Last year's tax rate was 5.3215, and you come up with the village tax of $4,721. You take it this year off the tentative budget, you can see the values went up, so it's $931,000. That's the rate, which you can see is dropped. Again, that doesn't mean your taxes are going to go down. You take the current rate, because the value is higher, the rates will drop, and that would be paying $4,867, which is that $146. So anyone can do that at home. If you want to need help, you can do it online, or you can just give me a call. How are taxes distributed in Rybrook? So the village basically is between 19 and 23% of the pie. So either 19 cents on the dollar or 23 cents on the dollar, depending on the school district. You can see the largest is the school districts. In the Blindbrook School District, it's 66% of the pie, and Portchester it's about 58. The average AV, or this average assessed value in Blindbrook, is just over $1 million, and the average resident in Portchester is average home is 625,000. So again, it depends on where you are, it depends on your different taxes. There's 4 different areas. It's what you pay in village tax, what you pay in town tax, what you pay in county tax, and the county tax, and also the school district. But the county tax, remember, is there's a general tax amount. There's also an amount depending on which sewer district you're in, and we have 2 different sewer districts. And it also depends on you also have to add the solid waste tax. So you have to combine those into the county tax. Okay, a little bit on expenditure trends overall, just to give you a general sense. All this adds up to the 24 million that 24.5 million total expenditures. You see they're mostly slow but steady increases. Not surprisingly, personnel is going to be our highest cost. What is government? We're basically people providing services. So that's going to be the highest amount. That's about 9.5 million. The benefits for them, which is the blue line, is about 6.6 million. The equipment that we use to provide and contractual is about 6.4 million. And debt service is about 1.8 million. We have no new debt being issued in this proposed budget. Some of the drivers that we have this year, it's a tough time. Our costs are going up like everybody else is, and things like inflation will impact us. How are people reinvesting in their homes? Is mortgage tax, if mortgage is going, if the interest rates are going up, that means people may or may not do as much construction. That will impact how much we get in our building fees. So all these things do impact us, as well as for the purchases and supplies of the supplies that we use, equipment and supplies. We have the same delay issues that everybody else has. We always want to try to stay within the New York State tax cap, which we've done every year but one, which was a planned expenses that we had that year. And we also have, last couple of years during COVID, there was some short-term federal subsidies available, the ARPA funds, which was able to we used really for capital projects for the most part. Again, small staff but mighty. We definitely could use more, but we do with what we can, and we think we do a pretty good job with the staff that we have. I think they do a great job. Again, personnel and benefits, those costs tend to go up, and that's our largest part of our total expenditures, other than our salaries and benefits of the people that provide the services. Health insurance is at $3.1 million now for those employees. New York State retirement is a $2 million expense. So you can see all those are driving the budget. We continue to commit to capital. There's a cost to that, but it's very important to maintain because it'll only build up and the prices will go up after that. Development impacts is another thing currently driving our budget. Right now, having dormant properties at Doral and for the most part the Hilton is not good for us, so we're hoping that some change will occur there. We also have the approved project at 900 King that if that was starting, that would also help us as well. And sales tax revenues, on the positive side, sales tax revenues are going up. So that extra percent that the county added on a few years ago, during COVID, it was always questionable how much that was going to have a real impact. But now we've seen a little bit more experience, and that really has helped drive our budget and help us on the revenue side. This just shows you a long history, but I think it's important to see. So the way that the retirement payments work is it's a percent of payroll. So that includes your general payroll as well as overtime. So basically, right now, the total cost you can see used to be much lower. It used to be, see right here, at one point we were paying like $15,000. Now it's like over what, $2 billion? And over $2 million in retirement cost. So you can see what the state then did is they implemented a minimum threshold. So you'll never see this, which really did hurt at one point in time, kind of stabilize the numbers. So right now, about 15 cents on the dollars for the employee system goes towards retirement, and about 30 cents on the dollar for the police and fire. So every dollar that are paid, or the employees or the police and fire, it's 15 cents or 30 cents depending on which retirement system. And the minimum threshold, just is it's always going to be at least a 4.5% increase. Okay, on the revenue side, These are some of the drivers on the revenue trends. You can see a little bit. You can see the sales tax. That's been a big plus for us. You can see how that, you have your COVID years too, but basically when that extra percent, you're seeing some real peaks now on what we're getting out of our portion of sales tax. And it is a portion. We get a distribution of most of the municipalities in Westchester County, unless they do some of the larger cities have their own sales tax, like Mount Vernon, White Plains, Yonkers. They have their own sales tax. They add on the extra percent. The rest of it is we all get the benefit of each other's what is collected for sales tax. We all get a distribution of all the rest of the municipalities in the county.
What does that depend upon? How do they do that?
They what's the factor?
Yes.
Do you know how that's distributed, Trish? It's a portion of the 1% that we get of what's received in the county.
Thank you.
And I think it might be based partially on population. The other one is that's kind of one we always kind of keep an eye on. You can see, hotel tax. Right now we don't have any hotels. You see how that revenue used to be $700,000. That used to be up here, and now you can see that's just all flat. And the other one that's real flexible that you see is the inspection fees. Those are your building fees. So if you can see it red, that we're starting, as we talked about the other day in the work session, we're starting to see more of a decline. If we get some of those building developments come into play, we're hoping to see that number go up, but that may not happen right away. Again, this is also just a quick slide to show how we try to keep our taxes as low as possible. We try to stay below the tax cap. Those lines are so close you can barely see that there's two lines there. But what you have here is one is the actual levy and the allowable levy. So all but 1 year, again, we've always been below the actual levy that we could have gone up, the allowable levy that we could have gone up. Again, this year it's $22,358 below the allowable. Okay, so we kind of highlight a little bit. Second goal was maintaining quality services. This is just a couple of quick items on each department. There's a lot more behind each one, but we just want to highlight some of the things we're doing. In our village offices, we talked about we're going to be implementing a new online permit process. We think it'll be easier for the residents to navigate, to be able to do things online, to make payments online for those permits. That's something that'll be in the building department, but also all the other departments as well. We should continue with our fiscal transparency products. We need to fill some vacant positions, but there's a lot of work that gets pushed out of all our village offices. So let's just highlight some of the new things. By the way, that's Sean McKenna, who's one of our newer officers in the picture. And police services, as we know, they're installing the new MTA communication system. That's a long, hard process for the police department to do. A lot of community policing that we try to do. Again, social media, they've got a great outreach to the community, whether it be social media or just reaching out to the community at various events. Maintaining our accreditation. We do have some vacancies and some anticipated vacancies. And we have a police contract that's up. That's the only contract. All contracts are currently negotiated. The police contract, though, does expire June 1st, so we're starting negotiations on that now. Fire department, we continue with a really good training program. That's our new ladder, by the way. We do a lot of community outreach, whether it be the babysitting services that we do, trying to provide education for kids, or the various events we do for fire extinguisher training and all types of stuff to reach out to the community and get involved at events. They work closely with Portchester Fire Department. We do a lot of more collaboration with both Portchester and the City of Rye now. And we have a new fire contract that has to be negotiated for June 1st as well. Okay, Public Works and Parks, definitely another high energy crew. I love that picture. Isn't that a great picture? Oh, Michael's holding up his thumb back there. So yeah, and that's an example of how we reach out. These are the events that they've done at some of the preschools and other events to reach out to the community and kind of show a little bit about these types of what they're doing in the community and how we help maintain and keep people safe. So road resurfacing, our aging fleet, our sewer system, which there's a lot of work right now, a lot of requirements for maintaining those systems. They also maintain the parks. We're going to be doing electric now in the parks, like we've talked about. For the residents are going to be requiring, we want to lead the way as well. The extension, they're an extension of emergency services, and I think people don't always remember that, but they're really the backbone and there to be there and support and be active and part of that emergency response for, storms and events. They really are part of that emergency service system. We are eliminating one needed vacant labor position. If things change on revenue side, we may come to the board and ask that be reconsidered and modify the budget, but right now, we're going to do with what we have. EMS, this is a system that's been struggling in recent years. Our response times in our Portchester, Rybrook EMS is fantastic still, but they've had a lot of burdens there in terms of working long hours with limited staff and a lot of recruitment retention issues. So we've created a system of a multi-year plan for recruitment retention, which seems to be helping. Also expanding some of the overnight coverage to make sure we have it. We're going to be considering the district option, which that study recommended to look at, and also trying to support in general this emergency service. Recreation, again, we try to do a lot, and you can see pickleball. It's everybody's talking about right now, right? It seems to be the rage. Everybody wants that. And we're trying to meet those needs. So, we have 3 courts at Rye Hills Park. We want to add another one at Garibaldi now. And we're seeing a real good positive trend on our recreation. We're starting to see things that people are coming back out. Our numbers after COVID now, which were low, are now really popping back up again, which is a really good thing. So whether it be bringing the community together at various events we do big events, we do small events, and just try to keep the community very active, and we're getting really good feedback on all of them. Our day camps are really picking back up in numbers, which is good. And we do run a state-licensed school-age childcare program, one of only 2 communities in the county that do that. And we're really focusing through Trustee Epstein's efforts and her leadership, providing our fitness initiatives. So we're trying to really focus on that for some of the residents throughout the community to encourage more fitness. Mm-hmm. Sustainability, another very active group, and Greg Rivera, my assistant, works very closely with them as well as several of the board members. So we have the measured move towards electric, educational programs that we're out there, kind of provide information for residents, food scrap programs that we continue. We're collaborating with the schools and the Roots and Shoots programs, doing more and more with them. They're looking to do environmental programs next year, so they're asking for us to be speakers and things like that. So it's a really nice program, native plantings, pollinator pathways. Michael's also helped out a lot being an arborist and trying to provide a lot of good educational information, and also, provide these sustainability initiatives for the community. That's I love this picture. The cute Arts Day, I guess, for Easter. And you can see Liz Rodfeld, our coordinator of senior services there, as well as many of our Rybrook seniors that are really an active group with just big numbers coming down there. We're getting great membership levels, trying to meet the needs of those evolving seniors. They have people are looking for more active programs. People are looking for more things to do that'll keep active, to do exercise programs, and it's doing pickleball and doing so much. It's a needed group, and it's a great experience. And as the baby boomers going to become more in the senior age, which is really in our case 55 and over, we're going to have a greater need to provide these services going forward. We also have a new food vendor, and we're doing several capital projects. We've done a lot of interior renovations in the building, and now we're doing some more exterior stuff to help long-term help the building as well, which looks great. Also available for rentals. That's a pitch. Reinvesting in capital projects. The village continues to continue to reinvest in our capital, as we talked about. That's something I think the village should be really proud of. That there's other communities I see are just not even doing any capital this year. And that really catches up. Again, we have about 1.5 million in capital this year with no, which is really fantastic. Last year, you can see it spiked up. the reason for that is we use the ARPA funds mostly for capital. So that's an example of why that number kind of jumped that year. So this is the capital projects that we have this year coming up that are identified in the tentative budget. So you can see we always put in $500,000 for road resurfacing. We have our sanitary sewer work, which is very expensive but very needed. These are, you can see, in a declining order of cost. You can also see how it's being funded. So we have a capital fund balance, which is money designated for capital. We have some grants that are out there, the remaining ARPA funds, and CHIPS, which is Consolidated Highway Improvement Funds. This is just a summary of how we use the American Rescue Act funds. So you can see we received a total of $976,000. We did an incentive for COVID. We did paid for a dump truck, and these capital projects last year, and there was some money returned because it wasn't all used for the incentive program. And this is what was remaining, and that's what's used towards, going backwards, that's the 128 right there. Have anything new, but you also have to make use of the funds and report it, and it has to all be used within a certain time frame. So, last goal that we want to just touch on is how we're doing financially. We're in a very strong position. New York State fiscal stress monitor actually dropped this year. Our score is 3.3. Starts a concern at 45. So we're in very good shape there. Our bond rating is a AA1. It's one of the highest available, especially for a community this size. Fund balance, our unassigned fund balance, is, as of May 31st, is about $5 million, which is $20 million of the total, 20% of the total operating budget, which is, again, when we're exceeding or we have anything higher, we don't want to overtax people. So that ends up being used. Anything that gets, for instance, a balance in our operating costs will be used next year, put into a designator for capital, so that money doesn't go towards operating, it goes towards needed capital projects going forward. We have very low debt. Total bond debt, our principal outstanding, is about $15.2 million. We could bond up to $213 million if anybody's interested in that, but certainly we are not. So we have very low debt. And how are our property values doing? A good sign of the community's health is looking at our assessed values, and they're up overall. So again, we went up, total values in the community went up about almost $200 million. And that's on both the residential and the commercial. So here you just get a little snapshot of our serial bonds and bands. You can see we don't have a lot of bands outstanding because we haven't had to take them out. Those are usually 5 years. And our debt, really, that's our public works garage. So really we only have 2 serial bonds and 2 bands left. And in fact, one of those I think is ending next year. Yeah, one of the bands, a portion of the serial bond is going to be dropping in the next year or two. And then one of the payments will drop off on part of that serial bond. Okay, the board has held 2 work sessions, and these are the changes that were discussed. They won't be officially acted upon until the board adopts the budget. But you can see there was an increase in revenues from the tennis court rentals of about $1,650. The expenditures, you can see the modifications that were made in AJP, the police department, and sewer tax billing. And what that all means is tentative budget was $22,358 under the cap. And now the percentage, now it's $20,323. Also the board asked to start looking at the fire engine replacement and to modify all the various fees that are in the village. And I also put this in Dropbox this week for the board. That reflects through last night's work session. So how would it look as if all those actions are enacted? The tax levy would change a little bit. The tax levy increase would go up by that same couple $1,000s. The tax levy increase would be, instead of 277, would be 2.78. You can see the very slight difference in the homestead and non-homestead tax levy, and those are the amounts. This is the amount right here that you'd be under the cap. And lastly, I just want to thank the board for your direction. I want to thank Trish again, and Lawrence, and Greg, and all the department heads. It's really a combined effort of everybody, and I think it's a very solid budget that'll, I think the residents should be proud of and hopefully be satisfied with how we try to keep the taxes reasonable, but also provide really quality services that the people want. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As a quick question, and you can, not regarding the budget itself.
That's it? No.
Well, no, I'm just curious because this is actually on the public hearing section of this. Were we supposed to have opened a public hearing?
So the idea is,
Or are you
I'm
just
providing
giving the
an overview of the
presentation and then we
tentative
open
budget,
it next
so all
time?
the public could comment on
Right.
the hearing. So now it would be appropriate to open the hearing so that then you could take comments on anything that's been discussed about the tentative budget.
All right, and then we close it at our next meeting and,
You actually should close it tonight. If you don't close it tonight, it has to be closed by,
April.
by a certain date, otherwise, so you
Okay.
have to almost meet again otherwise.
All right, do I have a
So you
motion?
should close the hearing.
Do I have a motion and second to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Epstein,
Yes.
Trustee Fisher,
Yes.
Trustee Heiser,
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
Mayor Klein.
Yes. Thank you. And I just want to say a big thank you to Trish, Lawrence, Chris, all the department heads, everyone involved in this process. This isn't an easy year. It's tough. I think as a municipality, we make the decision to try and stay under the tax cap, which Trustee Heiser will point out is fictitious. And I'm trying to be nice.
You're being very nice. It's an arbitrary, capricious number.
And we do that to try and protect the residents and try and protect, and difficult choices come with this. Not buying a second police vehicle, keeping a DPW labor position open, and not filled. These are tough choices. But trying to protect the interests of our residents, while maintaining services, and that's what we're about as a municipal government. And I just want to thank everyone for their hard work in getting us to that. It's not easy. And just again, thank you.
I was just going to say, Chris is very modest, but Chris is the captain of this ship, and he basically keeps us going and makes everything right. But I also want to congratulate the finance department and every other department who came before us during this budget process, and they knew, as the mayor pointed out, this is going to be a tough year, unlike all the easy years we have. And their requests were all reflective of the fact that they understood what we were trying to accomplish, which is, although I think it's ridiculous, we were trying to stay under the tax cap. And I am year after year after year amazed at the quality of our employees who work for the Village of Rybrook. We are incredibly fortunate to have such a great staff.
Agreed.
I concur, and I just want to add that we're very lucky to have the staff that we have in every position. Everybody thinks that anytime that something happens, we get letters. If anything blows down, and they come immediately. It's a great, friendly village, and we have somebody steering it that is really amazing. I don't know what we're going to do without you and the staff that you have.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'll make sure everyone hears that as well. All the staff hears that. Again, it's a great team, really. Years ago, I worked in communities where people ask for this and hope to get that. It's not that way here. People understand it, like you said. They understand the situation for the residents. They come in, the department heads come in with reasonable requests. They try to think out of the box on ways to get things done. And if there's a dead end, we look for other ways to do it, whether it be grants or other ways to find ways to get the job done. So I give so much credit to all the department heads and all the staff that worked in those departments to do everything to work together to do what's best for the community. And I think there's a lot to be proud of there.
Yeah, and I would agree with the reasonable requests for sure. They're very good with that. It's not, we can try to knock it down, but they're not asking for a lot. Every department knows kind of what we're all up against. Very good job.
And again, a very tough year. Very tough year. All right. So we need
Public hearing.
yes,
Yeah,
it's a public hearing.
You're welcome to.
You more than most.
I think this is the first
We
time
want to
I've
hear
had it.
something.
In my 10 years on the board, I think this is the first public comment on the budget. So please.
Well, actually, it's a question, and I may not be using the words exactly right, so just bear with me. There is an expanded tax break for senior citizens. It was approved in Albany. It was made available. It was approved by the county. It now needs to be approved by this Board of Trustees. Is that decision baked into this budget? I mean,
No, it's not, because the budget is saying how much has to be raised in a levy, which basically says how much you have to raise in taxation. So that's separate and apart from the budget process, because what happens is if one resident gets a tax break, that means it's made up by the others. So the levy is still collected. How much we need for the levy, we still receive in any regard.
So do you have a time frame in mind for when you intend to address that?
That's up to that's a policy question for the.
Okay, sorry.
Unsure of the time frame.
I'm sorry?
Unsure of the time frame.
Unsure, okay. Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments from the public? All right. Can I get a motion and second to close the public hearing, please?
So
Motion.
moved. Second.
Second.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. Public hearing number 3 is not needed. That would have been a public hearing to propose a local law tax levy in excess of the limit. We are under the tax cap, even though it is our right to do what we want with the taxes as a home rule state and an unfunded mandate from New York State, but I won't go into. All right. Resolution number 3, considering annual organizational meeting resolutions. And we can summarize as much as
Yes,
possible.
I'm going to summarize as much as possible.
Paraphrase. Yeah. We'll take a-
I read it already.
Okay, so I'm going to summarize this as much as we can. And the first meeting in April under village law is the reorganizational meeting. So this is the time when you make certain reappointments to boards, commissions, committees, as well as authorize certain consultants to represent the village, as well as other positions. So I'm just going to really go quickly and summarize. Retaining village attorney, that's the law firm of Keenan Bean, headed by Ralph DeMarco, representing us for the village. Appointment of labor council, which is Littler Mendelson, which is Craig Benson. Appointment of tax certiorari council, which is Toulis, Wilkes, Huff, and Geiger, which is Mark Toulis. Appointment of special water council, that's Joel Dichter of Dichter Law. Appointment of the village's risk manager, which is Foa and Sons, RJ Impastato. Retaining engineering consultant, that's Dolph Rofed Engineering, division of AI Engineers. Retaining village planning consultant is Hardesty in Hanover, Michael Galante. Actually, it's not Michael anymore, but it's Hardesty in Hanover. Special engineering consultant is Henningsen, Durham, and Richardson, or HDR, Architecture and Engineering, Mike Musso. Bond counsel is Fulbright and Jaworski, Randy Meyer. Auditing firm is O'Connor, Davies, Munns, and Dobbins. IT consultant for the village we're putting Dragon Tech, which is to the village later on. We'd modify this if it wasn't done, but it's recommended. Police department IT consultant is A1 Computer Services. Village administrator and clerk is Chris Bradbury. Village claims order, Judy Belkin. Village treasurer, Trish Lepre. Deputy village treasurer, Lauren Simmons. Receiver of taxes is Nick Mecca from the town of Rye. Registrar of Vital Statistics is Hope Vespia from the town of Rye. Records management officer is Chris Bradbury. Designation of board meeting nights, which is the second and fourth Tuesdays, is our regular meetings to start at 7:30 p.m. Signatories, this is where it goes through the various signatories of the village, which is basically the administrator, the treasurer, and the deputy treasurer. Authorized to sign bonds, bans, and other obligations of the village, and also do other bank transfers and other work, and also list the banks that we work with. Designation depositories, J.P. Morgan Chase, New York Class, TD Bank, Valley National, customers, People's United are all depositories. Official newspaper is Westmore News. For the Village of Rybrook. Friends of Rybrook is established. The village board also serves as the board of the Friends of Rybrook. Readoption of the rules of procedure of the Board of Trustees. That's we have rules and procedures which are listed on our website under our meeting, and this is a readoption of those rules and procedures of the village board.
Great, thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second? please?
Motion.
Second.
Thank you for keeping that as short as possible.
Best I
It's
could do.
a very important thing that we do that needs to be done.
Yes.
We thank all of our consultants and everyone else on that list. Ralph, we look forward to continuing working with you.
Thank you. Me as well.
And in some cases, there's agreements that we also reference in there, the dates of the agreements. In some cases, there's no increases. In some cases, there are increases, and Greg Rivera provided a chart to show the board where those changes were being requested.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
You know, while
Nope.
we were praising people before, while I think we forgot to praise Greg.
Yes.
Well, basically makes Chris look good.
Exactly. 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 And Shari, too.
And
Shari's the
Shari.
other one.
Yes.
Yes.
That's who really runs
It's a
everything.
team effort. Everyone
is.
has a team.
Yes.
Thank you.
And keeping everyone in line.
Especially Chris.
Trustee Epstein,
Yes.
Trustee Fisher,
Yes.
Trustee Heiser,
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
Mayor Klein.
Yes, thank you. Another long one. Resolution number 4, considering appointments to various boards, commissions, and committees.
Okay, again, I'm just going to kind of mention the names, and the committee. So, Sustainability Committee, Frank Pugliese, Michael Siegel, Lena Kim, and Bridget Dix is reappointed as chair. Parks and Rec, Advisory Council on Parks and Recreation, Krista Mudis, Stephen Zwicker, Hardy Manhaven, Taylor Gutierrez, Nancy Lee Maltez, and Judy Klein is reappointed as chair. Airport Advisory Council, George Walsh, Alan Strauss, John Mungo, Peter Schlachtis is reappointed as chair. Architecture Review Board, Mitchell Levy, Anna Carbone, Jonathan Metz, Freda Berger, and Mitchell Levy is reappointed as chair. Ethics Board, Lawrence Engel, Dana Zimmerman, Ken Finder, Andrew Zeitlin, Bonnie Baker Butler, and Andrew Zeitlin is reappointed as chair. Planning Board, Robert Goodman is reappointed as chair. Appointment to the Records Management Committee, that's the mayor, myself, Trish LaPree, Liz Rodfeld, and Greg Austin. Appointments to the Technology and Communications Commission, Rob Georges, Pamela Jaffe, Lori Hecker, Stephen Malkinson, and Jeffrey Friedman, and they still need a chair at this point, but that'll hopefully be reappointed soon.
Resolve that soon.
Yep. Appointments to the Traffic Commission, Gerald Applebaum, Barry Citron, Michael Barnett, Judy Simon, Joshua Balsam, and Gerald Applebaum is reappointed chair. Zoning Board of Appeals, Don Moscato, and Don Moscato is also reappointed as chair.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second, please?
Second.
As you just heard, there is a very long list of names. These are all people who have volunteered to help with the village and what the village does. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who's on that list and who's not on that list, because this is just appointments and reappointments. It does not mention everyone who is on one of those boards or commissions. And we really appreciate everything you do for the village of Rybrook. We certainly couldn't do it without you.
We should point out that everybody on the commissions and boards will receive the same pay next year as they got this year.
Yes. You will receive the same pay that we get, yes.
Same pay as us.
Appreciation, thank you.
You're lucky.
Maybe not
Although we've talked about doing an event, like a little thank you for
Yes.
for the
We're looking to do something at one of our music events for
Great.
some
Absolutely.
people. Yep.
some way to thank people who volunteer on our boards and commissions. So, all right.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes, thank
Just-
you all.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. Resolution number 5, considering an agreement between the Village of Rybrook and Dragon Tech for information technology services.
Whereas the Village of Rybrook seeks to purchase information technology services to secure, store, and exchange electronic data to support efficient village operations, and whereas the Village of Rybrook seeks to acquire IT services from Dragon Tech, now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Rybrook Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the Village of Rybrook to sign an agreement with Dragon Tech for a monthly cost of $13,242 for its IT services beginning May 1st, 2023 to April 30th, 2025, subject to any modifications made by council. Be it further resolved that the mayor and administrator are authorized to sign any documents necessary to accomplish the purposes of this resolution.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion second, please?
So moved.
Chris, a little background?
Sure. So this is a company that we've interviewed. They have this is a company that some of the people that worked with our former IT company have migrated to, and it's also so we're comfortable with the people that represent us on one individual in particular. But they have a deep bullpen there, and they can provide the services we're looking for. And it also comes with a cost savings as well.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Do we have any comments, questions on that? All right.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
Yes, thank you. Resolution number 6, considering approving the minutes for the meeting held on January 10th, 2023.
Now therefore be resolved that the Village of Rybrook Board of Trustees approves the minutes for the meeting held on January 10th, 2023.
Can I have a motion second, please?
Motion.
Second.
All right, I think it's self-explanatory. Oh, wait, my new thing. All right, voice. We're gonna do a voice call on this.
that?
All in favor?
Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Yeah.
The ayes have it.
Speeding up the meeting immeasurably.
Let's do all our things like that.
Administrator's report, please.
Okay, I just have a couple of quick items. One is I just want to mention again that the fitness programs now are coming up April 22nd from 9 to 11 p.m. The Rybrook Fit 5K walk will be will be starting. That's the first of 2 planned Rybrook Fit 5K walks, and Trustee Epstein has done a lot to help us coordinate that, and she's working with our village staff as well for the logistics, and we received several donations, so that's right around the corner. So that's one that people can sign up on our website. We're going to do more email blasts probably tomorrow to get more information out there, and also tell people how to sign up so we can get people. Last year was a great turnout. We hope to have even better one this year. And then after that, on April 24th, I believe, it's we also have we're going to do start our demonstration for yoga and Zumba and other events. We're going to try to do that
Zumba's this weekend, actually.
this weekend.
This weekend.
I thought it started the first was April 24th.
That's the kickoff walk, but he booked the Zumba for this weekend.
Okay, but the demo one is which one? That's this weekend or next weekend?
I think it's Saturday. I
All
asked
right,
him.
so we'll clarify, but the good part here is we're trying to do at least 2 times a month from starting in April and then continuing May and June. They're going to do 2 different things, so if people want to come out and try it or haven't done it before, there'll be a good opportunity to kind of learn more about it and see if it might be something that might interest you. And other than that, Greg Rivera also asked to mention about 2 other events that he's been working with.
Good evening. Before I did that, though, I'd just be remiss if I just didn't mention a couple other things. I promise it's nothing bad. I just want to thank everybody for coming out to our opening hot dog day event. I personally didn't know that little kids still love cards, but
Baseball cards.
Yes, and we had other sports cards in there. But I do want to thank the donor, who he has asked to remain anonymous, and I do want to respect his wishes. But I do want to thank him once again for allowing us to give away his lifelong collection of more than 40 years with his son. So that was, I think, a very touching gesture, and he is a new resident, so I think we should be honored that he chose us to be the ones to receive it.
And also the Grolio family
Yes,
for the
I
hot
want
dog.
to mention that next. I do want to also thank the Grolio family, which were Confidential Secretary Administrator Sherry Melillo is a part of that family, but we do want to also recognize them for allowing us to be the new owners of the hot dog stand. So again, thank you to them as well, and the rest of the Grolio family for allowing us to have it, and when we promise we'll make good use of it and create a lot more special memories with it. And just one other thing that I do want to mention is just regarding leaf blowers. I just really want to thank everyone involved. Again, I am also, in addition to Mr. Bradbury's assistant, I'm also the employee liaison on the Sustainability Committee. And so I do want to take time to thank the committee for all their hard work. It's definitely been a journey, and I would be not be truthful if I didn't say it wasn't challenging at times, but I definitely also want to thank our counsel here for also guiding us through the whole process. And also, she's no longer working with being with Drew Gambles, who also, whether it be just drafting legislation for us or anytime we had questions, providing, as recently as actually earlier today, providing us with legal guidance on any variety of versions that we've had of this law. And I also just want to thank, in particular, Mayor Klein and Administrator Bradbury for actually tasking me with doing this. Because I said, as challenging as it was at times, it really was overall a really good experience for me. And I definitely grew a lot from it. And definitely when, if the board decides to pursue another local law regarding whether it be other forms of equipment or anything else, I think the committee will be much better prepared. Touch on this is that while the law is passed, again, the Sustainability Committee, I have already notified them there is work for us to do regarding educating the public, whether it be at the birthday or different events, and I will be working with them to ensure that we get that done. And then the last thing for me is just a couple different events that are coming up that are sustainability related, but both on April 30th. The Sustainability Committee, in conjunction with the Portchester Sustainability Committee, will be hosting their next seed exchange over at the Portchester Rybrook Library. So I definitely want to thank the library again for allowing us to use that spot, and they typically have very good traffic. And then the town of Rye is also hosting their spring annual cleanup, which village we are participating in. So I am the host captain of the site at the AJP Senior Center. That's going to be going on from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. So I will also be sending out the flyers for that, distributing to our social media channels as well as our village newsletter to make that more accessible for the public. So if any students need service hours, particularly for the planting at AJP, I'll be happy to sign off on that as well.
Thank you, Greg.
Yes, thank you.
And we guys don't realize behind the scenes, so like Greg literally contacted and had long discussions with any commercial property you could think of on the whole leaf blower properties, the HOAs, reaching out to all the HOAs. So did a lot of legwork, and that's important because, again, the worst thing that could ever happen is people are surprised.
Right.
So we want to make sure that for good or for bad, people will agree or disagree, but we always want to make sure people are informed.
Good job,
That's
Greg.
what's important.
Thank
so
you.
thank you for all that hard work.
And just to confirm, there is a Zumba class at 11 a.m.
Okay, thank you.
Pine Ridge
And I'll
Park.
put that up tomorrow.
I put it on Rybrook Resident.
I'll be there.
And I also just want to say a quick thank you to this board and everyone in this room. We've had a long 2 nights. We've
Yes.
had a very long 2 nights, and past 9:30 both nights. So thank you for giving your time to the village. The next meetings of the Board of Trustees are April 25th and May 9th, 2023. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May 9th, 1 minute.
All right. We did it.
You lucky boy.
Good night.
Good night.